The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, this is Tom Lane, DM2 Software's Vice President of Marketing. I would like to welcome everybody to today's DM2 and xkzero Mobile Sales Partner Webinar. Before we get started on today's webinar, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Because of the number of attendees we have on today's webinar, everyone's phones will stay on mute. If you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them into the question window that you see on the lower right of your screen. We'll try to get to everybody's questions at the end of the webinar. If we're unable to get to your question, we'll follow up with you individually after the webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded. As soon as the recording is available, I'll post it on our website and our YouTube channel. And then I'll also post a copy of today's presentation slides on our website as well. Before I introduce today's presenters, I just wanted to talk briefly about how this partnership came about. Joining me today is Paul Ziliak. He is the co-founder and partner over at xkzero. And then Trent Campbell is DM2 professional service consultant that actually worked during the development and testing phase of this before we launched this. But before I turn it over to Paul and have him talk about iSales 100, I'd like to just talk about how the whole partnership evolved. What DM2 does every time we're looking at adding features or options for our customers, before we look at doing in-house development, because we are a Sage development partner, we look at the Sage ecosystem and look at what Sage has available directly to meet those needs. And if we don't see something right in their toolkit, then we look at the developer community. And the first people that came up when we started to look at mobile sales options was xkzero and Paul's company. So that's really how we try to do things. And because xkzero is also a Sage certified development partner, they adhere to the same kind of development standards that we have to adhere to. So when we actually partnered up and Trent did the testing, we found that there was virtually little to no setup development or special setups or development required to get this going. So on that note, I'm going to turn things over to Paul, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more about iSales.
Thanks very much, Tom, and good afternoon to everyone, and good morning to you on the West Coast. And it's my pleasure to be able to present to you today. So as Tom mentioned, my name is Paul Ziliak, and as the co-founder of xkzero, I've been in the Sage world for quite some time. I started as a Mass 90 or Sage 100, if you will, consultant back in the day where we were converting businesses in the early PC accounting software era. We were converting companies from manual systems to computerized systems for the first time. And there was a lot of cultural pushback during those days, right? Back in the day, if you look at the image on the screen here, everybody's doing their own thing in disconnected mode. You know, almost every single individual is a silo of information. It's hard for individuals to do work and immediately share, what's going on. So the world that we started working in, in the early days of Sage 100 was really transformative for those businesses. In fact, as I love this image here too, with the wires dropping down from the ceiling, what I was able to participate in as a former Sage 100 consultant is helping those companies move from those former silos of information now into unified accounting and ERP systems, right? Where accounting and customer service and purchasing and operations and maybe even the warehouse, all of those people are sharing connected common data. And most importantly, from where I think about the business these days, information that's vital about making decisions and serving customers, information that's vital and important about understanding inventory and pricing and availability and those kinds of things. So now we're at a point in the evolution of these systems where, ironically, there's still a really important group of people in a wholesale distribution environment that's left off of the Sage 100 system, and that's the salesperson. It's the outside salesperson, right? So in your environment, maybe this is familiar, that train pulling away from the station, that's everybody on the Sage 100 train, right? Sharing data, sharing information, sharing intelligence, being able to take action on common data. But the salespeople are still left on the outside looking in and constantly trying to catch up and reliant on phone calls and fax machines and things of that nature in order to do their work. They're not benefiting from Sage 100 in the same way that people who work in desktop type of environments do. So if the salespeople aren't connected, let's just take a few minutes and think about the context of that. How important is mobile sales automation? And a couple of months ago, I stumbled upon an article in LinkedIn, 10 tips for running a successful wholesale distribution business. So for me, virtually every company I deal with has some kind of wholesale distribution as part of their business. And I noticed in this article, 10 tips for running a successful distributorship, the wide number of things that actually seem to be addressed by mobile selling, right? So among them, right, tip number 2 there, stop writing and managing orders manually, getting your inventory under control, give your sales reps what they need to succeed, and differentiating on customer service and not price and so on. So, all of these things, if we look at, speeding up order fulfillment, as you'll see during our presentation today, these things start to matter. These things start to add up in the current and the future success of your wholesale distribution business. So let's look a little further at these tools, and do they really matter? And maybe some of these tools look familiar to you. If your company relies on a printed product catalog, if you rely on phone calls back to the office, or maybe pre-printed order forms that might get faxed in, right? So if you have an outside sales team that's not connected to a Sage 100 system, you're using some combination of these tools in all likelihood to be able to get information ultimately into Sage 100 so you can get product picked, shipped out of the warehouse, and so on. But there's a new vanguard in wholesale distribution that's really come about since the dawn of the iPhone, and that's, the product that we're going to take a look at today from xkzero, we first released back in 2012. And what we've seen now with the modern smartphone and tablet is, the ability to build reliable applications that really streamline all of those multitude of tools and individuals that need to get involved, where now maybe that outside sales rep can do all of that work on the smartphone. So let's take an example here. Let's say that I'm an outside sales rep and I've got a territory and I visit my customers. Maybe they're auto supply stores, maybe they're repair shops, other kinds of retail type environments. Maybe I visit those folks on a somewhat regular basis, and I go into a customer, and let's say that based on my observation, talking with the customer, we need 10 cases of a particular motor oil. But that customer needs it within a couple of days because the current stock level that they're at risk of going out of stock, right? So some other things that we know of too is that we offer customer specific pricing, right? That presumably is kept within my Sage 100, right? And that customer has a preference. They buy the same grade of motor oil, time after time. And this is also a product, that they could buy elsewhere, but they're inclined to do business with us because they like us. And maybe they even have a credit card that they're willing to offer to pay for, all of that on the spot. Well, in my traditional sales tool environment, there's a bit of a process that I have to go through to go from that point where that customer is first giving me that handshake, right? So let's say that happens on a Tuesday. They say, yeah, I need 10 cases of that motor oil. So the sales rep, maybe in their process, they scribble down that order on a notepad, and he says to himself, I'll call that one in later because I've got a number of customers that I need to see. So maybe later on Tuesday, on the third step, maybe he gets bogged down for one reason or another. He gets bogged down at another customer or two and gets to the end of the day, and lo and behold, he hasn't even been able to phone that order back into the office yet. So come Wednesday morning, the order gets phoned into customer service, who keys the information into Sage 100. But the thing is while they're calling the order in, now the sales rep can't decipher his or her own handwriting, right? What grade of oil should that be? So he's got to place a call back to the customer again to confirm, because he just doesn't remember, right? Well, now unfortunately the customer doesn't even call him back, and now it's Thursday. He calls to correct him on Thursday. Now we get it into the system, and the order gets sent out into the warehouse for picking. But now we find out, because another customer a day before placed a very large order, that product's back ordered, right? I get to Friday and I found out that not only did I miss my deadline, but the customer told me they just got their order expedited from another provider. This is not a good sales situation that we've got. And hopefully it's not too terribly familiar with you, but using those old school tools, that's at risk. Now let's look at what happens if you've got an app like iSales 100 by xkzero, where on Tuesday, when I'm at the customer, I can pull up my iSales app right on my phone. I can confirm the availability of the product, first of all, confirm the customer pricing, get electronic signature from them on that order, right? Proving the authority for that. That helps my collections later, or even get credit card payment authorization right there on the spot. So I can take that order, push it immediately from the phone into Sage 100, and that very same day, that order can be in the warehouse for picking. And maybe tomorrow morning, it's on a delivery truck that's going out to that customer. And by Thursday, not only is the customer all taken care of, but I'm getting another call from them placing another order. So I'm not only satisfying that current order, I'm helping to engender loyalty for the long haul from that customer by upgrading the tools that I'm providing to my sales rep. So think about the question, think about who you would rather buy from these days. Somebody who's got everything that they need to serve you right in their pocket or their purse, or somebody who's got a wide collection of tools and a delay in time and potentially accuracy, you know, in what they're going to do. Okay, so in this new world of smartphone, tablet technology connected with your Sage 100 system, the benefits really start to add up. You have better prepared sales reps. They're more confident. They're booking larger orders because as they're selling and taking orders for particular items, they've also got at their fingertips kind of triggers, reminders, ideas, other products that they can be creating awareness of for those customers. So I'll say from our real life experience with our clients, they're booking larger orders. They're accelerating that supply chain and ultimately the cash flow by getting the product into the hands of their customers faster. The faster it gets in their hands, the faster you get paid. We're seeing better accuracy. We're seeing great reduction in administrative costs by not having to have individuals rekey orders that already had been written down by somebody else, and so on. And we're seeing happier customers too. So those benefits add up. But if this is going to work for you in your environment, because everyone who uses DM2 and Sage 100 uses the system a little bit differently, right? Sage 100 and DM2, they're highly configurable applications that are built so you can run your business the way that you need to run your business, and the system will follow, right? So real keys to success for you with rolling out mobile sales successfully is really following along that same line. You need a comprehensive feature set. You need a high degree of ease of use. You need a flexible and powerful ERP integration that you know is going to work every time. But it also needs to be simple to set up and maintain. So that's all the lead up. No big surprise, right? Because we've built this tool for you, iSales 100 as we call it, advanced mobile sales. We've built it exclusively for Sage 100. And we think that it's the most easy to use, flexible and powerful sales tool that a mobile salesperson can have, especially if you use Sage 100. So the opportunity for you, right, is the better prepared sales rep, the better organized day in and day out, where they can pull up, review the status of their customer right from an iPhone or an iPad, right off the bat. Complete transactions right out in the field, taking orders, invoicing even, credit memos, quotes if you need to. And now we also support Sage Payment Services, so you can take a credit card in the field as well. And the net result of all of that is really transforming and improving your customer service proposition. So iSales 100 is also highly configurable. It's flexible to meet your specific needs, not just as a company, but by each individual user to create just the right experience for them. And it's also super easy to set up and manage and maintain, because we built it natively into Sage 100, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. So here's some of the use cases for iSales 100, and none of these should be terribly surprising for you. But first of all, anytime as a sales or customer service or executive in a company, when you're away from the office, you might want to have access to mission critical information about customers in your inventory. But also, if you sell at trade shows, if you have a showroom floor or a retail floor, if you attend special events, if you go on site with customers, in some cases, if you have service techs who are selling inventory, miscellaneous items from Sage 100 and so on, you can do that. And then another one, as a direct B2B customer app, with iSales 100, you can have them download the same app that you would give to your salespeople and provide them with a login that only gives them access to their own customer information, only access to the inventory items and information about that inventory that you wish for them to have. So in essence, what you can do is, as an alternative to an online website, you can give your customers an app to interface and do business with you. So here are some of the things that you can expect to find, right? Things that will make you and your sales team better prepared is that all of your contacts from Sage 100 will flow through automatically into iSales 100. And we integrate out of the box with the telephone, with email, the map, and calendar, right? So you hire a new sales rep, you give them a login for iSales, and immediately they would have filtered just the customer information that you want for them to have, but they're going to have all of the phone numbers, addresses, all of those things, to do those visits. And then as data gets updated and maintained in Sage 100, that data is going to stay synchronized on the iSales app too. So they'll also be able to transact, as I mentioned before, quotes, orders, invoices, credit memos. They can monitor inventory quantities available by warehouse. They'll have access to seeing open sales orders, open accounts receivable invoices, inventory images, if that's relevant to you. And if you keep images attached in the item master file, you can see that. Customer last purchase history by item, aging information, last payment information, hot lists and favorites as we talk about, and even access to DM2 pricing as well. Okay, so we follow all of the customer and item pricing rules that are built within Sage 100, and we've tested this out to find that we follow the DM2 pricing rules as well. We enforce your credit rules within the application. Also, if you sell products that have that are part of lot numbers or potentially serial numbers too, we support those. We support barcode scanning. We even do Spanish language translation with the click of a button. So if you change on an iPhone or an iPad, if you change the language preferences to Spanish, that automatically converts iSales 100 to a Spanish language application. And then, as I mentioned, we're now taking payments, including credit card, with Sage Payment Services. So hopefully that's starting to give you a good feel of what you can expect from a feature standpoint from the application. But here's, again, to reinforce a real key to this thing, right? Just like this couple right here, this couple is not going to settle for any motorcycle, right? This couple They have an idea of what they represent, how they want to live, how they want to be. They need their motorcycle to be exactly the way that they need for it to be. And that's the way that we built iSales 100. We know that we've got to follow the rules of your business to create the right experience for your sales rep. So what we're looking at here is a screenshot of what we call remote user maintenance within Sage 100. And this is on one of the tabs here for transactions. So you'll note that it's very simple in a Sage 100 interface. You set up a user ID and a password that people will use on the iSales application. And then you just go through and say, hey, what kind of transactions do they do? What's the default warehouse they're going to sell from? Is this person required to get signatures on here? Do we need a sales tax calculation? What kind of information are we going to allow them to override? Can they change the ship via? Can they change the terms code? Can they create new memos on the fly? Can they override the price or the unit of measure, you know, those kinds of things? And then what types of payments are we going to allow them to accept in the field? So this is the setup within the system. And again, because it's so familiar to you as Sage 100 users, it's really adaptation of it is really overnight, where you're able to set up exactly the right experience for each individual user. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a pretty good setup right now for what to expect from iSales 100. And what I'm going to do is just do a little technology shift around here, and I'm going to do a live demonstration of the application. So I'm going to jump out of my PowerPoint here for a moment, and I'm going to, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this demo off of my iPhone. And I could be doing it on an iPad as well, but I'm choosing to do the iPhone. And I use something called Reflector, and Reflector is going to allow me to project my actual live iPhone up on the screen. So give me a moment here, and I'm going to pop this up here. Now, if it so happens that I receive a text or a phone call or something like that, don't be shocked, because this is my live phone. All right. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is what we call the home screen for iSales 100. So just to give you a little orientation here, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? So these are the customers that are assigned to me, and these are all of the contacts for those customers within Sage 100. These are all of the inventory items, again, that have been published out to me. So this is important to keep in mind, that you might have thousands of items in your Sage 100 database, but maybe only you need hundreds, right? So, you know, you can pick and choose with a click of a button, really what's going to get published out to iSales and what doesn't get published out to iSales. Right? And then also here, new transactions, right? So iSales 100 is an offline application. And what that means is that it's available for you to work and serve your customers at all time. And then if you're doing new transactions, then we're filling up a shopping cart, and then you synchronize data as you choose, right? So we have a setting on the back end that will require you to synchronize every day if you turn that on, right? So, you know, at a minimum, you can have those sales reps synchronize once a day, or you can do it, you know, as often as you wish to do, okay? So I'm gonna show you just real quick here in the settings for this, you know, that you'll see that I happen to be logged in as with a user ID, JK, Jim Kentley, right? That's my company code within Sage 100 that I'm working out of. That's my salesperson code within Sage 100. And then I go through here and I see all of the rules that have been set up for me within my remote user maintenance, default transaction types. Do I require signature, you know, all of those kinds of things. And I'm just showing that to you to mention that that's one of those things, like from a support standpoint, that allows us to serve you better, you know, when we're able to take a quick look at those things with the sales rep without having to drill into the Sage 100 system in order to do that servicing. So a couple of things, customers and contacts, right? So the nice thing about having the contacts on the application is that, you know, if I'm planning a visit to go see, you know, American Business Futures tomorrow, I'm just typing in American B for American Business. And so you can see here that I've got a list of all of my contacts from American Business Futures. So one of the hallmarks of our application is that you can search based on any of the displayed information on a lookup, right? So if I wanted to search for, let's say I'm going to Milwaukee tomorrow, I wanted to search for everybody who's in Milwaukee, I can just plan my day, you know, that way. So I can call up, you know, based on a contact, and I can see my contact notes that I have from the application. I can even start, you know, a transaction for that customer record right from the contact. And this is kind of a cool thing too. Let's say I'm at American Business Futures. I'm talking with my old buddy, Artie Johnson. Maybe I don't have a sale for that day, but maybe I've got a follow-up activity for him, right? So I'm gonna say add calendar event, and oh, darn it. my bad, folks. I've got a permission that I need to turn back on, and that's just happened to me the second demo in a row, and I didn't do that. So, well, I'll pop back to that in a while, but you'll see here, you know, if Artie Johnson's got phone numbers, or if one of these is a mobile number, you know, or his email address, you know, those kinds of things, you know, this can be a really nice communication hub, you know, right from the application in terms of working with him. And the other thing you'll note too, from the contact record, then I can go straight to a customer record. So I'm going to go into a customer record here for American Business Futures, and look what happens here. I've got a setting here that says, hey, you know what, for this sales rep, I want my customer memos to pop up here automatically. So as soon as I went into American Business Futures, it pops up a customer memo from Sage 100 and says, heads up, ABF has special pricing that recently changed, right? So it's notifying me of that. I click on done, and here's another one that pops up too. It's like, oh, please remind them of our golf outing planned for Whispering Pines on August 4th. They can bring their own foursome or join in with others and meet other leaders in the industry. Terrific. So I can use Sage 100 on the back end to remind me about things that I want to talk about with them, you know, while I'm out in the field, just by using those Sage memos. Okay. So other things, you know, maybe before I go in to see them, I can look at all of my last purchase history, and I can sort that by date or by item, and I can, you know, if I'm looking for, you know, products that have oil, I've got hydraulics oils and heavy duty engine oil and so on. You know, I can see the products that they bought, the last time that they bought it, what they paid for it, what the date was, and so on. So that's some very powerful information now that I've got right at my fingertips. I've got open orders with details. I've got open invoices with details. I've got all of the aging info, so I can see if I've got, you know, credit collection problems. And then in addition to that, we give you the ability to publish up to 8 additional customer fields at your discretion, or up to 8 additional inventory item fields at your discretion as well. So I'm here, I'm visiting with Artie Johnson. I'm gonna go ahead now, I'm gonna do a new transaction, right? So let's say that I'm a salesperson who wants to take an order from the field, and you'll see that I've been given permission to do any of the transaction types within Sage 100, but I'm gonna go ahead and do a sales order, right? And for a purchase order number, I'm just gonna say DM2, I'm just gonna say DM2, and that's good enough. That's my PO, right? So if you already use Sage 100, you're gonna note that these fields all look will all look familiar, right? So ship to, maybe they're saying, you know what, I want that to go to the Racine warehouse, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. These little I buttons here, I've given permission to override that. So you know, if I also have the instruction here you know, to maybe put this at the back gate. I'll go ahead and do that, right? So there, so I'm gonna have that go to the back gate in that warehouse, right? But now, where the rubber really hits the road, I'm gonna start selling to them. So, you know, I have a number here. You'll see I put a filter on this called Petro. So if I take that off and I put all of my inventory items, this is all of the 200 or so, you know, items that I could sell, and I could look at historical, right? So this is I believe keeps a list of up to the last 20 things that they've bought from me. If I've got new items in the inventory that I've never seen before, those will publish up to me, right? Or I can put my, you know, Petro filter on here. So I'm going to grab this racing oil, and you'll see here, you know, I've got permission to change my unit of measure, but I have no other unit of measure for that item, so I can't change it. I look at my warehouse quantities, and I see I've got none in the Costa Mesa warehouse. By default, it was my Chicago warehouse where I've got 511 of those available. So it comes up with a quantity of 1, a unit price of 110. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take a look at my price lookup, right? So here are, here's my price lookup, and I can see my quantity discounts here and have a conversation with them to say, hey, you know what? If you order 10 of these, you're going to get a 7% discount. So I'm going to go ahead here and enter in 10, and just like that, I get that 7% discount. So my unit price, $102.03. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. Maybe I'm going to add hydraulic oil as well. Add a couple of those items too, right? So I've just added, you know, a 2-line order into my system. My subtotal here is $1,227. I can go in here. Now again, some of the things that I'm showing you are not required, right? These are all feature options that can be turned on or turned off. So in my environment here, I'm going to calculate totals, because maybe in my environment, I have sales tax collections that I do from time to time. I see that I've got none in this situation. Also, maybe I'm taking a payment out in the field too, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say credit card, right? And I'll go ahead with the deposit sale, though I could do just a straight pre-auth, right? And so this is following all of the rules of Sage Payment Services. So I've got 2 cards on file, or I could add a new card on the fly. Now, I don't have a card swipe attached to my phone right here, but we support card swipe technology that will allow you at this point to just swipe a card. And what it's going to do is take all of that information, it's going to load it up for that customer into the Sage Vault right there on the fly. I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to choose that Visa and go ahead and take the order for that. I'm going to go ahead and save it. And look what happens. I go to save the order, and it says I need to add a signature. So I'm going to do the signature. And by the way, we write that signature back into Sage 100 as a user-defined field. So if you're sending your invoices out using Paperless Office or Sage Alerts or something like that, and you want to print the signature and date and time that the order was taken or something like that, all of that data, including that signature, is sitting in your Sage 100 database once we push this back into the system. Okay, so backing all the way up here to the home screen, and you can see now that I've got 1 transaction that's in my system, and I could, you know, at this point I could delete it if I need to, or I could go and I could edit it if I need to. By the way, we can print, email these transactions from the device, or you can let Sage do that work for you. I'm going to go ahead now, I'm going to synchronize this transaction and push it back into Sage 100. Our integration with Sage 100 is utilizing web services. So when we implement iSales 100 on your DM2 and Sage 100 system, what we're going to do is we'll work with you to configure a secure internet connection on your Sage 100 server. And then what happens is automatically that order is going to be pushed back into Sage 100. So I'm in that same company code within the Sage 100, And now what you're going to see, here's a note here that says it's got a credit card transaction processed for that order. So here's American Business Futures. There's my customer PO DM2. Remember, it was Artie Johnson who we started to work with, so that's why it shows Artie. There's the Racine warehouse that we selected as the ship to. There's our quantity of 10 with our discount on the racing oil. There's our hydraulic oils. And then over here on the payment tab, you'll see that Sage Payment Services went all the way through and did the work for us. Customer service didn't have to do any of this, okay? And that work is done. So, you know, we're getting a little close here to our planned end here, and I'm close to wrapping up what I was going to cover. I just want to take a real quick look here again at this remote user maintenance where we do the setup, right? So you don't need your IT department necessarily to do it. You don't need necessarily outside consultant to help you set up users, right? You can set up, you know, new users, and it's all pretty self-explanatory. You know, do you want to hide pricing? Do you want to hide inventory quantities? Do you want to allow that price lookup? Do you want to allow the display of cost information, right? So these are all things that we've thought through in terms of creating that right experience for the customer, right? So, you know, limit to the salesperson, right? Here's the salesperson assignment from the customer master file, right? So you can just limit them to that, or you could open it up wider or create your own parameter, you know, based on the customer master file, or even based on user-defined fields, you know, to filter just the customers that you want to be able to give to them. Give them permission to add new customers on the fly or not, right? So inventory items, do you need miscellaneous charge codes? Do you need comment codes, miscellaneous items? Those are just done with a checkbox. Do you want your sales reps to see every warehouse or just certain warehouses? Do you want to exclude zero on hand or zero available, you know, inventory? And then of course this really, you know, feature rich transaction building that we have to allow you to create just the right experience for your rep. Okay, so that concludes our product demo for now, and I'd just like to close here with a few other things about iSales. So the thing to keep in mind, we're in full control of the environment. As Tom mentioned, xkzero, like DM2, we're certified Sage 100 consultants. So most of the requests that we get for new features, we're actually able to do by doing ProvideX programming on the back end through that remote user maintenance and just pushing out those changes, you know, to the app. So, you know, we're Sage 100 developers, we're mobile app developers, and we built those web services too. So we really, you know, if you've got a special rule, we should be able to accommodate that. All the sales reps will deploy iSales from the Apple App Store, right? So it's very easy to roll out the application, and everything's custom tailored with one set of code. We don't have any custom iSales that are out there. We could if it was necessary, but we've consolidated everything into one set of code. The application is very flexible and proven, very high performance. We have customers with tens of thousands of customers, hundreds of thousands of inventory items, and it's very easy to display, to deploy. Okay, wide range of references, including having DM2 customers. You know, I think about one, Davison Oil, that we recently did, and you know, some of the things that they needed to have in order to create really that perfect salesperson experience. You know, they needed to have the ability to assign salespeople at the ship to level. Well, we do that, right? They needed to be able to do price lookups and override the price level because they utilize those price levels in sales order. Well, we do that. They needed to have inventory quantity available by warehouse to satisfy a multi-warehouse environment, and we do that. And they also wanted to be able to print on their pick sheets who took the order while they're out in the field, right? So these outside sales reps aren't necessarily Sage 100 users, but they're remote users, they're iSales users. So we print that ID now, you know, on their pick sheets. Okay. So yeah, just a couple other closing things. iSales is something that can be implemented in hours, not days or weeks, right? Now, when we choose to roll it out, we could take some time and introduce it slowly to sales reps, no doubt about that. But it's a very quick and easy implementation. And we also offer a 30-day full money-back guarantee. We know that there aren't a whole lot of those out there, but we believe very strongly in what we do, and that's what we offer. And we also offer you the opportunity to try it before you buy it. So if you have an Apple device, you can go out to the iTunes store and search for iSales 100 and just download the app, take a couple of seconds, and use the user demo or the password. Go ahead, synchronize the data, which should be self-explanatory. But really, you know, contact us, contact DM2, and we'll tailor a demo because everybody's needs are a little bit different. Tom, I think it's going back to you. We're close to a wrap.
Yes, we're almost there. Thank you, Paul. That was great. Great overview. Again, we're very excited to partner with xkzero and bring that to the table for our customers. One of the things I wanted to do before we open it up for questions is I wanted to mention that we just updated our Petroleum Insights new feature summary that is available on our website. To find that, you go to our home page, go to About DM2, and then the drop-down menu will show you that. You can download it. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is, as some of you may be aware, when we came out with the version 2013 release of our system, we also stopped doing our typical every 6-month product releases and went to releasing new features and functions as they became available in the product updates that we put out on a regular basis. So the advantage to everyone there is, you know, if there's a new feature you want to get and you don't, you know, you traditionally used to have to wait for a general release. Now you can get that in a product update. You can contact our professional service group and they can help you with those. But I wanted to point out that you can find a summary of all the features. And one thing you'll notice as you're going through some of the new features is they'll actually have project numbers next to them, meaning that you can add those. And when you follow up with your consultant, you can talk to them specifically about which feature and then the project number so they can help you quickly. So I encourage everybody who's listening to take a look at that. Now, Paul, if you want to go to the next slide, we'll open it up for any questions. We are right at our time limit here. It doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment. I know that's a lot of information for everybody to take in, but I'll tell you one of the questions we've had as DM2 salespeople out there marketing this to our customers is version support. And what I mean by that is specifically is which versions of Sage 100 and the DM2 releases will this work with? Any concerns or constraints on that, Paul?
Yeah, great question, Tom. So we support version 4 all the way back to version 4.5, all the way up to version 2017, and we should be ready for 2018 very shortly after that release, I believe planned for October. And then we also support all the standard, advanced, and premium, right? So we support the regular LAN version, the client server version, and the SQL version of Sage 100, as well as Sage 100C. So I believe we've got it covered in every version of Sage 100 from current all the way back to 4.5.
Excellent, and I think that definitely covers everybody that's on this webinar and the majority of our customers as well. So that's great, great. Just one, I know we're a minute past our time, but the other question that we typically get asked to is, will this work with anything other than Apple smartphones and tablets?
It doesn't, and that's a question that we get really frequently as well. Primarily, people want to know about Android. We built the product back in 2012, and we made a very clear and decisive business decision when we did that, and that we wanted to create a product that was going to allow for high performance, high reliability. And we found then, and we still find to be the case now, that the Apple environment for business is the best way to go for that. It's a more limited number of pieces of hardware and operating systems that we have to support. But if you think about the fact that we have customers who print in the field, who do barcode scanning in the field, who now do credit card swipe in the field, and if what we're able to do for our the dozens and dozens of customers using iSales is we can replicate the hardware and operating system environment for all of those customers. And it's so important for when outside salespeople are interfacing with customers for it to work every time. And we looked at the wide range of Android hardware and Android operating systems that are out there, that we knew that even if we were going to support Android, we'd have to choose one or a very limited number of hardware devices that people were going to have to use, and we were going to have to really narrow the operating systems in Android that we would support as well. So we've stuck with Apple only, and we've had a lot of success with our customers doing it that way. So in fact, Tom, our customers this year will transact over $2 billion worth of revenue using iSales 100 and it connected with Sage 100.
Awesome. It's a big number.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Well, we are a few minutes past our time limit there, so we'll wrap things up here. I just want to remind everybody today's webinar has been recorded or is being recorded. Once the recording is available, I'll post it on our website as well as our YouTube channel. I'll also put a PDF copy of today's presentation slides up on our website, and then I'll follow up and send a message out to everybody to let them know when they're available. I know we put a lot out there. If you think of any questions after the webinar, would like to find out about more about iSales, feel free to contact us at sales@dm2.com. I want to thank Paul for doing such a nice job on presenting this, and we're really excited about the partnership. So we're looking forward to working together here. And I wanted to thank everybody for attending today's mobile sales webinar. Thanks. That concludes today's webinar.